I had intended to go another way with this part 6 of this series about the observable anomalies, but after I had edited this part here, I had pasted a comment in several flat earth channels so that they could pick up on this truth. And this fella, to his credit, had done so and made a video on it. I put in the description what I found out while editing the video, that they removed certain parts of the comments in this 1965 news article, but they claimed that it was uncut. If you are an open-minded curveballer like some commenters have portrayed themselves on my channel here, I would suggest you go watch this 32-minute video and this 24-minute video here to get a better understanding of where I'm coming from. Listen, folks, if you're going to discern these people's lies from the truth, you need to be, as the Bible states, as wise as a serpent. You need to think critically about the information they spew to you. They will let no truth get in the way of their lies or the story they want you to believe, which is red light passes through and blue light scatters and all this garbage to get you to believe they know why the moon does what it does during a total lunar eclipse. It's a story. It's not true. It contradicts what Jesus said. In the end, the moon will not give its light. Okay? Here's an example of the moon not giving its light. So when Jesus turns out to be correct in the end, they'll have no excuse for it not giving its light because it won't come back probably. But these are things in the sun and moon that Jesus told you about when they asked him what the sign would be in Matthew 16. And he said it would be the sign of Jonas, which is the total solar eclipse. I've shown you in previous parts of this series. Now, the lie is this woman says from the live camera footage at the Griffith Observatory, you can see the moon's going into this umber shadow and it's starting to turn red. Out here on this limb, it's turning red. And then this man, the astrophysicist, begins with the lie, stating that you can't see it turn red. That's why it's going invisible, because this little bit of white, our eyes can't adjust. Really, it's red, but we can't see it. And right before he starts or during that statement, they switch camera views to hide the fact that, yes, I can see it, because it contradicts their story. It shows that it is. Now watch this video footage that I'll show, which gives you, I call it the gift that keeps on giving. It's giving the truth. It's video documented evidence, which is what science is. It's called a solilian, I guess. I can't pronounce it. The lesser known term is the horizontal lunar eclipse. So now you see this part here where it's completely dark. They want to claim that's going into the umbra. This is a partial lunar eclipse. And again, you see the excuse for it turning red right here. Again, it's a story, which is contradicted by video observational evidence, where the guy claimed, well, when there's a little bit of the white showing, our eye can't adjust to the red. But you see it's starting to turn red. The other commentator mentioned that, and while he's correcting that to conform to the lie, they changed the video footage.
And we can already see from our tile, from our moon up in the corner there from Griffith Observatory, that it's actually starting to turn a little bit red because we're edging in towards the total phase of our eclipse.
Right, so we are just a couple of minutes away from the start of totality. So we are now going to start to see this this reddish color. Any part of the moon that is already in the dark part of the Earth's shadow will already be this red color, but we can't really see it from here on the Earth until the whole of the moon has been covered by the Earth's shadow, because when we still have that little bright crescent, our eyes cannot adjust to the contrast, and we simply cannot see that red color.
Now, if you go here and check this out, you'll hear this reporter from the Time and Date Live when they're watching the total lunar eclipse remark about this turning red out here on the limb of the moon. And then the astrophysicist lies to correct her and says, the whole thing that we don't see is really red, but we can't see it because our eyes can't adjust to the contrast. But now look here, new moon is 1% visible, but we don't see anything lit. Think of from New Mexico, the video footage I say is the gift that keeps on giving. It's over in the western sky, okay? And the moon, according to their diagram, is way over here. That's why it's disappearing, because it's going into this shadow. Any other time that you see a full moon, it's not setting in the west with the sun rising in the east. It's always rising in the east with the sun setting in the west. They claim it's refraction, but you never see a waxing gibbous moon phase over here refracted up in the east. Never. These are little things that contradict their lies that you can observe. All you have to do is question it, and it's exposed for the lie that it is. But if you just check your brain at the door and listen, suspend disbelief, you'll buy all the stories they tell you. Wake up before you burn up, people. I have to correct myself right here. I originally said waxing gibbous when it was exiting the total lunar eclipse. This video at the right is again the New Mexico 2011 December 10th total lunar eclipse, otherwise known as horizontal lunar eclipse. It is right here at this point, which would be a waxing gibbous moon phase. And it only goes completely dark when it's directly behind there, and they claim it's 100% full, although mooncalc.org and other places claim it was already full. That entire night it was above the horizon. But when we're talking about this, we have to pretend it's not, because it would belie the model. So here we have a situation where it must be refracted. We're seeing something that we otherwise would not see, so it's selective refraction. Because what we're seeing is this moon phase, like I said, a waxing gibbous, is actually being filmed in the western horizon with the sun rising in the east. But we normally see that moon phase rising in the east with the sun setting in the west. But what you never can see is a waning gibbous moon phase rising in the east with the sun setting in the west. Think about it. Also called horizontal eclipse. 99% waxing gibbous moon today. They make it appear as though it's not full here. It looks 100% full when you look at it with your naked eye. I'll film it and add it to here. See here, they've got it shaded. Because we all know if it rises before the sun sets, it can't be 100% full. That belies our model, right? So we pretend it's not full. So here you can see 741. The moon rises above the horizon in my area. The sun is still up above the 14,000 feet mountains out here in the west. And I see the moon above the horizon here in the southeast. Here's the rub, though. They claim it's 99.8% anything other than 100%, because, again, that would belie our model. It can't be rising above the horizon before sunset if it's on the opposite side of the ball Earth when it's 100% full. You understand how this contradicts our model? look, if you'll take your time and go back to this part in this part 3 movie here at the 25-minute mark or so, and go through and read this document that was at this Harvard website, you'll see that Michelson, throughout the years after he did the experiment with Morley, kept trying to figure out why he didn't observe the movement of the earth. Because I'm sure, like Einstein, he wasn't a Christian. He had a secular worldview or an atheistic worldview, this idea of people being evolved. And these people are the ones that are propped up by governments. They're funded to do their experiments. The people that are out there telling you that the global warming and the climate change stuff is a bunch of garbage, they're not being funded. You're not seeing or hearing those voices. Whatever the agenda is, that's what they push upon us. So this guy is replete throughout this entire article about how he couldn't explain that. This is the same thing with the so-called Aries failure. He filled a telescope with water, and he would have expected to have to tilt the telescope more to keep the light in there, but he didn't have to, which proved again that the Earth didn't spin. But again, that they convolute the experiment and say, no, he couldn't prove it. And then, of course, Einstein comes along and says there's no optical experiment that could ever prove that the Earth moves, because at speeds of light, everything contracts. But again, if you go and investigate that, they only ever say that this so-called Lorentz contraction would only ever come into play at the speed of light. Okay? You'd have to be moving that fast for it to ever play a role. And so they can never prove these things that they claim.
Reproducibility crisis.
So you just have all of these explored?
In general, we look for a new law by the following process. First, we guess it. Then we don't laugh, that's what's really true. A lot of people believe... In general, we look for a new law by the following process. First, we guess it. Then we don't laugh, that's what's really true. A lot of people believe that science is a method of telling the truth. If it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong. But it's not. That's a fundamental category error.
Is math related to science?
Science is just a method. It is not a truth-telling device.
And a new study suggests hugging your dog is bad for your dog.
Science is intrinsically and fundamentally dependent upon the honesty and the integrity of the scientist. And right now, whether you realize it or not, science is in a major crisis. And the reason is that scientists have ceased to make use of their own famous scientific method. It's what's called the reproducibility crisis.
So you just have all of these exploratory studies out there that are taken as fact, that this is a scientific fact that's never actually been confirmed.
People who are actually going back and taking the trouble to try to reproduce the results that scientists are reporting as quote-unquote scientific fact are not able to reproduce it. In fact, the majority of the time, the results that are claimed in these peer-reviewed, professionally published papers in reputable journals are false. They cannot reproduce more than 50% of the published science that is tested. And this is the good stuff. And it gets worse. Nature did a poll in 2016. They surveyed 1,500 scientists, but they found out that 70% of them were unable to reproduce experiments that other scientists had published. But even worse, 50% of them couldn't reproduce successfully their own experiments.
It doesn't make a difference how beautiful your guess is, it doesn't make a difference how smart you are, who made the guess, or what his name is. If it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong. That's all there is to it.
So the idea that you're going to be able to rely upon a method that most of the time is inaccurate and false is ludicrous. When you're dealing with a secular scientist who has tremendous incentive to falsify results, or to simply put a little thumb on the scale, or to make sure that he finds the results that the people funding him want to find, you have a problem.
And science will come up with some reason to put in the books, but in the end it'll be just a theory. I mean, we will fail to acknowledge that there are forces at work beyond our understanding.
No, I'm not saying that a scientist is necessarily going to, is any more likely to lie or cheat or falsify data than anyone else. But here's the thing. When you do not have a religious incentive to tell the truth, and you have a tremendous financial incentive to not tell the truth, can we really be surprised when these professional scientists find a way to fudge things just a little bit to make sure the results come out the way that gets them published, that gets them paid? So that's why we're seeing this crisis in science, is because we are seeing fewer Christians in science. Now, Christians lie, Christians sin.
I have sinned against you, my Lord.
This is all true. But you cannot claim, logically or with a straight face, that it is unlikely for there to be a connection to removing this religious incentive to tell the truth, replacing it with a financial incentive to not tell the truth, and then discover magically that these scientists are not telling the truth. So now, this is not a conclusive case, I admit that. But I'm simply pointing out that there is reason to believe that, contra the assumptions of those who believe that science and religion, that science and Christianity are at war, I submit that science needs Christianity, or at least something that serves as an adequate substitute in order to avert what we're seeing as the reproducibility crisis. The post-Christianity of the scientific community is one of the biggest dangers to science that exists today.
But your observations, like here with the moon, contradict what they claim. See, when they tell you about the total solar or total lunar eclipse, they want to claim that it's only 100% full for a couple hours, 3 tops if it moves through the center of the umbra shadow. But here you can clearly see information from NASA. Oh yeah, 2 days in a row it's full. Because again, they can't contradict what you visibly see. Okay, I want to go through an example here from just the moon phase for a second. Beginning on February 26th, you can see it doesn't look completely full in the diagram. It looks like that part of the limb is not fully visible, just as it does here. But on the 27th, it appears 100% full. And then it looks like a part of this limb here is missing on the 28th. Now, if we look here, given 2/27/2021, it's 100% full. Now, this diagram here gives you an illustration on what the progenitors of our so-called science, I claim it's pseudoscience, tell us we're seeing here. The moon traveling this way behind the dark side of the Earth. When it's in line with the Earth, that's when it's full. So anytime before that, it's a waxing gibbous. Anytime after full, it's a waning gibbous. So again, on this date, February 26, 2021, from near my location here in Colorado, the film I shot of the moon is, by the progenitors of our pseudoscience, claimed to be 99.6% full. Not 100%, because it rose in the daytime, which would violate this here. If it was up here during the daytime where you could see it and the sun, well, it can't be back here at full, right? You understand this? And throughout this film, we will dissect that and show through the scientific method that that is not true. Now, if we refresh this to today's date, they claim now it's 98.9 waning gibbous, right? How did that happen? Good question. Sometime in the middle of the night it was full, but now it's not. Now it's 98.9%, even though it looks just like it did last night. Understand? This is our science, folks. If we apply the scientific method Okay, it's a series of steps followed by scientific investigators to answer specific questions about the natural world. It involves making observations, formulating a hypothesis, and conducting scientific experiments. Scientific inquiry starts with observation followed by formulation of a question. Look here, observation, question, hypothesis. Right there is where pseudoscience stops. For example, theory, the theory of gravity. All these different theories, like Einstein proposing with Lorentz that there's a contraction, the Lorentz contraction, to explain away the 1887, I believe, or 86, Michelson-Morley experiment that proved the Earth did not move because the apparatus that they used to see the interference pattern that would have developed with the light rays was 20 times more powerful than it needed to be to discern such deviation. And they had a null result, I guess they like to call it. But so they couldn't say, well, your test wasn't accurate enough to determine. They knew that wasn't the case, so they formulated this hypothesis, if you will, or theory of the apparatus shortening in length by just that amount that made it undeterminable whether or not you could see the Earth move or not, and that's the Lorentz contraction. Again, did we ever go beyond that and have an experiment? No. Of course, Einstein says there can be no experiment ever performed to determine that. And they then went on and said the speed of light is fixed. Everything else is relative. The speed of light cannot change. Then you get someone that comes along like Sir Rupert Murdoch, Rupert Sheldrake, who has a TED Talk in which he explains that, yes, the speed of light has constantly varied, but they fixed that problem by just mandating it doesn't change. And his TED Talk has been banned and ridiculed and put off to the side so that not many people view it because it contradicts their so-called pseudoscience. So far in this series of anomalous facts, part 3 is my favorite. Sometimes while doing these things, I learn a thing or two, and this one here I learned a lot on with this interview from ABC Australia. They claim it's uncut, but you can clearly hear they omit the word Earth twice after the interviewer says flat. And what's really funny is they claim it's an uncut, news clip. And these people actually tried to claim copyright on my video. Normally, in the past, they would just shadow ban the video, and another way of lowering the views is to claim copyright so they can keep it from being seen. And I argued that it wasn't. It was for educational purposes, so they removed the copyright claim. But it's interesting how if you research our science or pseudoscience, if you will, of our cosmos, the understanding that they try to have us all buy into, it's propagated by people that the Bible would say Satan's ministered, always pretend to be angels of light. This fella here, they always try to claim he was a Christian, right? But as we know, the Bible states that we judge a tree by its fruit, okay? And this is not the fruit of a Christian, his life, right? But not only that, like Edwin Hubble, for example, when he found out the cosmos looked like Earth was at the center, he stated we got to avoid that at all costs. These things will lead you to conclude if it's a lie, and they always base our opinion on a false model of what's going on. You understand why that their theories are off by a factor of 10 to the 120th between their expectation of what we should see in observation. That's how far they're off with this science. And things like this in this part 3, in order to keep it under, I tried to keep it down to 30 minutes. I didn't achieve that goal with this part. I didn't stop and go over every little anomalous fact, but this was written at the time of his theory of special relativity coming out. And you can see they tell you that the experiment showed no observable velocity of the Earth, but then they throw in that with respect to the ether, so then they claim, well, the ether doesn't exist. The interferometer that he used to prove that the Earth didn't move was showing light beams, the light beam that traveled with the supposed spin of the Earth versus the one that went perpendicular to it should have resulted in an infringement pattern when they saw them recombine, but they didn't see that pattern, which concluded the Earth didn't move. Okay, we're talking about light. That's why the special theory of relativity came along to explain that away with the Lorentz contraction. Now, when you look at this here, you can see right here, it's full. I mean, I've got people, Pulsar X claiming that, it's only full for a couple hours. You know, it's only full at a certain moment in time, and then it's no longer full. Well, you can see that they show you that it's full for 2 days here. And we can observe that with our own eyes. We can see that it appears to be full, but they'll call it 99% for a period of 3 days, 4 days, but oh no, it's actually 97% here. But you don't really see that. It appears full sometimes for a couple, 3 days. But here they actually show it full for 2 days. And for somebody to say, well, that's not a trusted source, if you looked at where they get their information, the photos are from this visualization studio from NASA. Okay? So when it comes to you saying, hey, I think the moon's full tonight, let me look. Oh, here, yeah, it is full. But then when they want you to think it's not full, or it's only full for a couple hours, they'll show you something like this, or this right here. And you'll notice they'll skip right over 100%. They won't even show it when it's 100% full. It'll go from 97 to 98. And then back down to 95 or something. Watch, it never gets 100%. Because see, what they want to tell you is that it's only there for a limited time, because when you look into the lunar eclipse, yeah, it could only be full for a couple hours while it's passing through the umbra. But that's not what we see. We don't see it change over the course of the entire night of 8 hours when it's full. It doesn't do this. We don't see it darken on one side after it gets full. You would observe that if that was occurring. So that tells you this is a cartoon. It's not reality. But you got to question what you're being told, and that's all I'm trying to do. I mean, I've just been trying to wake up one person from the beginning of my channel, and I think I've done more than that. I had a few thumbs up in this video, so I know at least 4 people got it. I'm up to 90 subscribers, so there's some people that are acknowledging the truth that I'm putting out here. Some people just never will, like Pulsar X, and I'll try to go over some of that in this presentation. But as you can see, that's in December. There's another one here. This is January of the same year. You can see how they show it full for 2 nights. They're matching what we see with our own eyes here. But then when you go to look at the lunar eclipse, oh, it's only 100% full when it's in the umbra shadow. And even if it's passing through the center, it's only like 3 hours in duration. You understand? It is what they want it to be at a certain time, and not what they want it to be at other times. So this here is a little video I shot on May 25th, right before about 9 o'clock. You can see it's getting dark, but it's not quite yet. The sun's already set. But from mooncalc.org, you saw where it rose at about 7:41, well before the sun set. So therefore, it can't be 100% full. That'd belie the model. So they claim it's 99. And of course, the visualization studio from NASA, where they actually claim they get their pictures from, right here, it actually says it's 99% full, and they shade it a little bit up here. Of course, you don't see that in the video. Okay, again, here's the still. Later on, after about 9 o'clock, when it got away from behind the trees, I filmed it again. Of course, they claim it's 99%. You don't see any dimming on any limb here. It looks 100% full. And here's a picture taken from that same video, just a still shot, so you can compare. Any dimming on any limb? No, 100% full. Looks just like this. But of course, that belies the model, so they got to pretend like it's not full. You see where they do this, right? But yet when they want you to think that it's only full for a couple hours, well, we'll show you something else, right? We'll show you this little video here where it's only full for just a minute. And then it goes right, and then it starts dimming, but that's not what we see. We can't look at it over the course of the evening and watch it change phase, right? It stays a certain phase for days, right? New moon, full moon. These are the things that belie the model. We see these things. They'll tell you it's something else. Wake up to the lies. Okay, as you can see, January 2021. This video over here, you can see, shot on the 27th. You can see the sun glinting off this house here, so it's definitely daylight time. And as you can see here, they don't claim it's 100% full because that would belie the model. So they give you some fictitious number with a little dimming over here on this quadrant of the moon. But when you look for yourself, your own observations, which is what real science is, you can see, when we zoom in here, wow, looks 100% full to me. Where's this little dimming area? See, they don't want you to see things that you shouldn't, so they'll tell you it's anything other than what you see. But look here, they claim it's full 2 nights in a row. Again, they're not going to contradict what you see on sites where they know you're looking to check what you should see. You're looking to confirm observation, so they show you the truth. When they want you to see something else, like the full moon or the total lunar eclipse, well, then again, it's only full for 2 hours or 3 hours, whenever it can pass through this umbra shadow, right? And you can't say it's not a trusted source, Paulster, all you ball earth lovers, zealots. NASA, your trusted source. That's where they're getting their images, okay? Wake up. This is what I would call an example of doublespeak, like George Orwell's 1984, where it says, our astronomers can make the stars seem close or far, depending on how we need them to appear. Like this example here, you know, every day we see the moon appear at a different phase, right? Every month, 2 days go by where you can't see the moon. That's the new moon phase, right? See that? See that? They call it 1% here, but it's really, you don't see it at all for 2 days. Just like 2 days a month, it appears full, or maybe 3 days, but they don't call it that. It's called 99%, right? You want to split hairs, but you don't see any darkened area. Of course, they'll shade this here to make it look that way, but that's not what you see if you go out and film it on those days, as I've done, and I'll show you here. But what they give you is silliness like this here. A visualization studio, they call it, right? Okay, if you're a billion-dollar organization, you employ the best and the brightest, why can't I get a 3D model from like Mechanical Desktop from Autodesk? Why do we get cartoons? If we look over here at time and date, another trusted source, but again, maybe that's not accurate because it only goes to 1 decimal spot, right? Just like the visualization studio from NASA. This can't be a full moon because it rises before sunset in my location. So that's not 100%, but we don't see the 100% full moon, right?